Hi, Denise Gwen, reading aloud for you from the last chapter of my short story, A Good Christian Woman, Chapter 23, Part 2. Ben followed her as she shuffled into the kitchen. She certainly looked harmless enough, and she moved with an elderly, arthritic slowness that he knew wasn't faked. He stood in the middle of the kitchen as she collapsed onto a chair at the kitchen table. Sure enough, there was Mary Ann's handbag and her cell phone. McClintock certainly hadn't made any effort to hide her things. I'm being paranoid. See, my dear, she left her things here. I do believe she'll be home any minute. This isn't her home, Ben said coolly. No, of course not. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Ben looked around the kitchen, but couldn't see anything suspicious, and yet something niggled at him. If it's all the same to you, I'm going to wait for her. He glared at her. Right here. Oh, of course. She pushed herself to a standing position and shuffled over to the counter. She took an electric tea kettle and placed it under the tap, put it onto a burner, and flipped a button. Please, take a seat. I was just making myself a fresh pot of tea. Ben stood there for a long moment, jittering from one foot to the other. She shuffled back to her seat at the head of the table. I want you to sit down and tell me all about your wedding plans to that lovely young lady. His temples throbbed. Something's wrong here. Tell me all about your wedding. That ring you gave her, she showed it to me. Oh my, it's so lovely. Thank you. Then, unable to stop himself, added, It's 2 carats. She put her hand to her chest. Oh my, that's impressive. I can't wear my rings anymore. My fingers have swollen up so much from the chemotherapy. The electric tea kettle boiled. The button clicked off. Shall I take that off the burner? He asked. Yes, please, and bring it over here with a fresh tea bag. You'll find a box of Earl Grey in the cupboard above the sink. Yes, that's it. Lovely, she said as he went to the cupboard. She lifted the lid from the teapot and gestured. Just pour the hot water into the teapot for me, please. Ben carried the electric tea kettle to the table and poured it into the teapot. He returned it to the counter, returned with a box of tea bags, sat down at the table. Her mother and sister are planning the wedding. Her mother's making her wedding dress. Oh, a homemade dress. How wonderful. You know that old wedding rhyme? Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Yeah. He noticed an old-fashioned landline phone perched at shoulder height on the wall. He jumped to his feet and walked over to it, lifted the receiver and put it to his ear. Nothing. Set the receiver back onto the hook. Oh, that, McClintock said. There's no dial tone. I haven't used that phone in years. It's a wonder to me I haven't hired an electrician or someone to take it down for me. I could do that, Ben said, half ashamed of himself for being so disagreeable earlier. I'd need to remove the post securing it to the wall, then sand over the plaster, prime it. Oh, Ben, that'd be so lovely of you. I simply can't get things done around here anymore, what with my dear husband gone. I don't mind. She gestured at a carton of milk. The tea's steeped long enough. Now, I like to take my tea with milk. Do you? Yeah, sure. I'm using 2%, but I do have soy. 2%'s fine. I really don't care, he muttered, and settled down to wait for Mary Ann.